Hi, this is Kirby Sommers. Today is July 2nd, 2025, and this is a new podcast with new information on the final days of a very brave woman, Virginia Roberts Giuffre. An article came out yesterday. I'm going to read most of it with you. I'm going to share some of the information that the family has shared since her passing. I'm also going to be sharing with you some of the, Virginia kept a diary. She wrote, as we know, she had a memoir where she sort of explained to the world in that memoir, which became part of the court records during the time that she sued Ghislaine Maxwell during the defamation case, which she won in 2015. But apparently, she kept a diary, and I will be sharing some pages from her diary. So apparently, her brother Sky and his wife have given an interview to a newspaper, and I'm going to read some of that. I know that we're going to begin with this photo of Virginia that has never been seen publicly before. She looks very bruised up. She had been in an abusive relationship with her husband, Robert. And I'll begin with showing you the fact that she thought that Robert would be her savior. She met him when she went to Thailand, sent by J.E. and Galen to get her certificate or her license to be a massage therapist. While there, she went to a club. She met Robert Giuffre. And before I begin with the article, I want to say that when I met Virginia and when I sort of got somewhat acquainted with Robert, he had begun to tweet at the same time. So Virginia was placed to be the face of the survivors, the most prominent advocate on behalf of all the JE survivors. And Robert was tweeting. And what I noticed about Robert when he was tweeting is that he made a lot of grammatical errors. And I realized, oh, this is a man who has not had a good education, because we know there's almost nothing about Robert online other than you know, his martial arts history. And in this article, we will see that when Virginia started to make money, well, he decided he didn't have to work anymore. However, we're going to continue on, and I'm going to show you some things. I'll also show you this right now. That's Virginia as a little girl in her home. She was born in California. The family then moved to Florida. And we know that, according to her, at the age of 7, a family friend abused her in a way that is very traumatic, and that began, sadly, a lifetime of abuse. I want to keep this here because it's important that we know what Virginia was dealing with at the same time that she was being represented by David Boies, J. Stanley Pottinger, and Bradley Edwards. At no time did any of these men who knew about her abuse kind of left her alone. She was placed in a position where she received further abuse, as we know, regarding what Victoria Harvey did to her, her biggest troll, and the troll army that Victoria Harvey selected and created in order to continue to harass Virginia. So Virginia was not only being pummeled by her husband, but she was being pummeled by these online strangers uh, who continue to pummel her, by the way. So I'm going to begin this article. To the outside world, it appeared to be the latest in a series to befall Virginia. And so what they're discussing is that on March 30th, she shared a photo on her Instagram page showing a bruised, a bruised face, which all kinds of people, and it really annoys me to no end, were saying, oh, she looks unalived already in that photograph. No, she looks bruised and beat up. And the photo, by the way, was taken by her sister in law. Okay? So shame on anybody who's like, she's already not alive. Sorry, she was very much alive. Now, she wrote at that time, I'm ready to go. I've got 4 days to live. And she talked about the year being the worst start to a new year. And it had been because she had had some issues. And I'm just going to go through the article. Her family understood the post for what it was. It was basically, according to her brother and her sister-in-law, a desperate and final plea for help. And the help was because Robert had stopped her from seeing her children. So 3 weeks later, on April 25th, the article continues to say that Virginia unalived herself while she was alone on a ranch in remote scrubland north of Perth at the age of 41. Virginia's family said little in the months that followed, even as media speculation and conspiracy theories swirled that she had made up the crash, that her death had been ordered by influential people trying to silence her. Now her relatives have decided to speak out in their first interview to honor what they say were her last wishes. Her death was a terrible ending to the story, but there is a big part of it she never got to tell. Amanda Roberts, the wife of Virginia's younger brother, Sky Roberts, told The Times. That story is one of abuse, like J.E., who trafficked and exploited her, but it is also a story about a bitter battle with the person closest to her, her husband of 22 years and father of her 3 children, Robert Giuffre. And I showed you the photograph of her and Robert when they first got married. And then Amanda, I'm going to continue with the article using the nickname for Virginia, and Virginia was called Jenna by the people in her inner circle, said Jenna may have fought battles with some of the most powerful men in the world, like J.E. and Prince Andrew. But what people didn't understand was that in her final days, the hardest battle of her life was at home. Now, apparently, Sky and his wife Amanda came to New York and stood in front of J.E.'s Manhattan mansion on East 71st Street. Now, I did reach out to them a couple of months ago. I received no comment from either one of them. Okay. So then it goes on to say, for the first time, Virginia's family is sharing a diary she kept from the beginning of this year, in which she shares memories of her marriage as it was breaking down, as well as photos, text messages, and legal filings, in which she alleges that Robert was violent, abusive, and emotionally and physically controlling. Virginia claimed in her diary that her husband's behavior worsened as she became the face of the campaign to bring J.E. and others to justice. The stronger I became, the scarier he became, she wrote, accusing him of trying to stop her from advocating for the victims of transportation, and in the final months, allegedly preventing her from seeing her children. Now, I have some screen images of some of her messages. Let's see. I have a couple, so let's see if so this is one that she wrote for her children, and she was basically hoping that they would see her notes at some point. She's like, it'll be all right. You'll always have a rainbow over your head, angels by your side, and God in your heart. I'm here for you, here and everywhere. Okay. So, I mean, there are a few of these, and I just want to show you what I can. So here that she goes on to say that apparently Robert saw her so-called success to be a threat, and he did not want to see her be, let's say, independent. And instead of praising his wife's accomplishments, he began to be jealous. Uh, he wanted her to stop advocating. And then this goes on. This is what she wrote. This is part of her diary. Now, some of her diary has been sort of blurred out, uh, but I also want to show you. So when Virginia had her last child, which was her daughter Emily, which is basically, I believe, around 2009, 2010, when she decided that she was going to, in a way, fight back. The FBI had begun to call her. She really didn't want anything to do with what was going on. JE had called her. She didn't really want to be part of any of that at that time. She had given birth to this beautiful little baby, and she thought to herself that she should do something to protect little girls like Emily. And so she's holding her baby in her arms. The baby's only just born. And apparently, her husband, Rob, was coming down off a 3-day bender and punched her in the face. She goes on. I'm going to just read what she wrote. Even when I had Emily in my arms as a baby, Rob was coming down off a 3-day bender and pushed me in the face, which dropped me to the floor and continuously kicking me in the stomach. Really nice guy, huh? Here's another photo taken of Virginia and the bruising from one of these beatings by her husband. I mean, this is very heartbreaking. Now, this is Virginia as a little girl with her brother Sky. And she was in touch with her mother. So apparently, whatever was going on with her mom, that was remedied because she did reach out to her mom. And I'm going to try to keep a certain photo up there because I want people to understand what she was going through. I think many of you do, but so, I mean, the article goes on to say what I just said, that the stronger she became, the scarier he became to her, right? And he just did not want her to advocate for anyone. And in the final months, allegedly preventing her from seeing her children. And then her brother Sky said, what you have to know about Jenna is she was never afraid of these people. She was ready to move on with her life, but she wanted that life to be with her kids. And apparently the newspaper contacted Robert for a comment, and his attorney said that the passing of the wife of Robert Giuffre and the mother of their children is tragic, but his counsel was unable to comment on specific allegations of abuse due to live proceedings in the Western Australia courts. Meeting Robert. Okay, so it goes into what happened. Born Virginia Lee Roberts, she experienced abuse at a young age when a family friend molested her. age 7. And I already showed you the photo of Virginia as a little girl, and she was age 5 at that point. She was spotted one day by J.E.'s girlfriend, Ghislaine, while working a summer job at the age of 15 at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach. Actually, she was a couple of weeks shy of being 16. And then it goes on to say that Virginia described how she was passed around like a platter of fruit among the J.E. and Ghislaine friends until she managed to escape at the age of 19. An aspiring masseuse, she had been sent by J.E. to Thailand for a course at the International Training Massage School. There, in 2002, she met Robert. He was 26 years old, and he was a mixed martial arts instructor from Australia. Instead of returning to JE in New York as she had promised, she ran away with Robert and they were married 10 days later. Now, on the surface, it goes on to say everything looks okay. The couple welcomed their first child, Christian, in 2006. The following spring, Noah, their second child, arrived. And reflecting on the early days of their relationship, Virginia wrote in a diary entry in February this year, on the surface, everything looked okay. However, she said, underneath this picture perfect facade, there were tensions unseen. Virginia stayed home to raise the children. Robert had odd jobs in construction, so he didn't even work in his field of martial arts. And we see that he's overweight, so he could not have continued his martial arts training. So he had odd jobs in construction, which kind of goes to my point when I saw some of the tweets. And at some point, David Boyce must have said, hey, don't have him tweet anymore, because then he stopped. There were just grammatical errors. He wasn't even typing properly. And it wasn't because he was typing too quickly. It's just that the man didn't really have it in the brain. He just didn't have it there. Okay, so he worked in construction. For years, she was afraid to talk about her time with JE, even with her own family, until he was convicted for the transportation of a minor in Florida in 2008. And so 1 year later, in 2009, Virginia sued JE, and she identified herself only as Jane Doe, accusing him of transportationing her. And then, she listed some of the places. So, and then she decided to waive her anonymity after the birth of her daughter, Emily, the following year. And she began to give interviews about what was going on. Now, Dinny von Muffling, Virginia's public representative, told the Times, holding Emily as a newborn, she said to herself, I need to do better for my daughter and for all the women out there who can't fight. And the earliest alleged incident of domestic violence dates to that specific time. So apparently he began to start beating her up at precisely the same time that she stepped forward. However, as per this article, there is no record of a complaint filed by Virginia. In a text Virginia sent to von Muffling in April this year, she alleged that basically this is the text that she sent Mimi, her public relations person. So again, even when I had Emily in my arms as a baby, Rob was coming down off a 3-day bender and had punched me in the face, which dropped me to the floor, and continuously kicking me in the stomach. I mean, if the man is not a brutal and very despicable person, I don't know what is. So what I want to do is I want to just bring up another image. So give me a moment here. Because I need to be able to find a photo and upload it. Okay. And I'm almost done. I found the photo that I want. And I just want to be able to show it to you guys because, you know, this is sort of how I want to remember Virginia as the fierce woman that she was. Okay, let me get back to this article. So it goes on to say that the couple spent the early years between Cairns, the northeast tip of Australia where Robert had grown up, and Colorado in the US, near Skye, who's now 36, and Virginia's half brother, Danny Wilson, who's 46. They stayed for 1 month in 2013 with Danny and his wife, Lynette. Danny claimed Robert was volatile and erratic during that visit, alleging Robert would start drinking on their porch each morning before they went to work. Anything would set him off, Danny alleged. Skye and Amanda said they always thought of Robert as controlling and short tempered, but Virginia had not mentioned any physical abuse at the time. If she was ever having a bad day, she would say, "Oh, you know, Robbie," Skye said. When pressed about what exactly she meant, Virginia never offered anything more. 2 years later, Robert was arrested in Colorado for an alleged assault on Virginia that the couple kept private. So this is interesting. He was arrested for assaulting her, but she said nothing. The Times, who wrote this article, has seen a police record filed in Fremont County on June 3rd, 2015, against Robert, labeled the case with domestic violence. Now, if you guys remember my earlier podcast on Virginia, I said that she was scheduled to appear on a television show and it had to be rescheduled. And this was in one of the court documents regarding Alan Dershowitz. She was scheduled to appear on TV. She was already being represented by David Boies, J. Stanley Pottinger, and Bradley Edwards. However, because Robert had beaten her up, and this is specifically when this happened, apparently, because it gels with the time. They had to wait. I feel very strongly that her attorneys were not looking out for her best interests, and frankly, not really the interests. I've said it 100 times. I'll say it 100 more times of either her or the victims of JE, because from my research and what I've been able to ascertain and kind of put together is that these people were sent in to be, let's say, gatekeepers. Okay. So Virginia never talked about this. They waited until the bruising went away, and then she appeared on television. Okay, I'm going to continue to read this. The criminal docket is sealed, but according to a civil lawsuit Virginia filed against Maxwell that same year, the couple became involved in an argument over the welfare of the family dog. They're fighting over the dog. Okay. Virginia alleges she was assaulted by her husband, as witnessed by at least one of their children. According to the filing, Robert pled guilty to domestic violence and was placed on probation. So let's just continue. In 2017, the family moved from the United States back to Cairns, where they remained for 3 years before relocating to Perth. Virginia alleged in her journal, written this year, that Robert stopped working that year. He stopped working in 2017. So Virginia had the settlement was $5 million. I don't know how much Virginia cleared. I'm sure she had to pay some expenses, including tax, so on and so forth. But that was I'd say the second large sum of money, because the first came in 2009. But by 2017, I'm sure a lot of the initial money was gone. But the millions that she got from Glenn Robert is like, I don't have to work anymore. And he started to just lazy around the house, complain, beat up his wife, and drink. This is what I'm reading. Okay, I'm going to continue. Um, and that Virginia alleged in her journal written this year that Robert stopped working in 2017 and had taken to drinking most days from 8 o'clock in the morning to sometime in the PM. She claimed in her diary that he was drinking and alleged he had become violent when consumed by jealousy. She wrote in one diary entry earlier this year, the abuse was manifesting in small ways at first, monitoring my daily activities. Virginia's brothers claimed that for long periods they had no reliable way to contact her and did not know who would reply to their messages on her phone or on social media. So he had control of her social media. And I knew that David Boyce had control of her social media, but I did not know that Robert had control too. So she was being handled by a physically abusive, kind of crazed alcoholic, not really smart man whom she married, regrettably. That's what happens when you're the survivor of abuse. You do not think highly of yourself. Anyone who pays you a compliment, you're easy prey for. And you don't really get to know that person. Now, according to this article, the abuse only began in 2010. But as a survivor myself, and as somebody who has seen this sort of like a relationship, the push and pull of having had a history of being transportation, let's say, and I'm sorry to have to use a made up word, but this platform does not allow me to use a real word. Uh, Men are often the men that you become involved with, because it happened to me and it happened to, I'm sure, 9 out of 10 of women who have been in this situation. The man becomes abusive toward the women because they don't look at them as being, let's say, pure, right? Because the woman is sullied, the woman is a WHORE. So while this article is making the statement that this only started in 2010, I strongly suspect that it started much earlier than that. Okay. So the family also shared text messages, uh, apparently sent by Virginia's phone number to her mother, Lynn Miller, but they think that it was actually Robert communicating with her mother, pretending that it was Virginia. And her mother responded, "Calm down, princess. She's on the phone." So, I mean, he's pretending to be her. What a creepy, creepy thing to do. So, Virginia claims in her journal that she was not allowed to go downstairs when any mail was over, and that was every day, that she became a prisoner in her house. At the same time, Virginia's lawyers filed another lawsuit in in Florida, claiming that JE had trafficked her to, let's say, the man who is the son of the queen. So I messed that word up, so I have to kind of say other words. Transportationed her to Andrew. Uh, so all this is happening when we know that she was gifted to Andy 3 times, and we have seen that photograph that some people continue to claim, oh, well, that's not real. Get over it. Seriously. In any event, in November of 2019, Andrew gave an interview to the BBC's Emily Maitlis about his relationship with JE that was considered a PR disaster, what had been tabloid fodder mutated into a full-blown scandal, forcing the Duke to step down from public duties. Virginia, a 35-year-old transportation victim, From a small town in Florida, which her brothers describe as a place no one has heard of, had toppled the Queen of England's favorite son. Her family said she had always been incredibly proud of herself for that. When people told her no, or people told her they didn't believe her or that she was crazy, she would say, "Watch me," Amanda said. Back in Australia, meanwhile, Virginia claimed in her diary, kept in the last months, that her husband grew uncomfortable with the publicity her case was attracting. She wrote in her journal, "He was showing unease in my finding independence. Instead of praising his wife's accomplishments, he began to be jealous, trying to make me stop advocating for victims of transportation. Robert's behavior became more controlling. The stronger I became, the scarier he became." She wrote, "During this time, the world was getting to know Virginia," Amanda said during a family trip to New York last month. "She's going public, filing lawsuits, and I guess she sort of had to put on a face. She had become a spokesperson against transportation, and she was able to build that fight for all the other survivors, but she wasn't able to do that battle and the one at home at the same time. She was awarded millions of dollars over the years from settlements and civil lawsuits against Maxwell, the JE estate, Prince Andrew, and the JP Morgan Bank over its handling of JE's finances. She received $10 million from the Duke in 2022, and Queen Elizabeth is believed to have donated 2.7 million US dollars to Speak Out, Act, Reclaim, SOAR, a charity Virginia set up to campaign for survivors of abuse. Virginia alleged in her recent diary that Robert was no longer working and was gambling away their money carelessly. Virginia's family said she first broached the subject of divorce with Robert in August 2023. "We talked so many times about her leaving. She talked to us for years about being unhappy in their relationship," Lynette said. "She told me, 'I don't love him anymore.'" Good for you, Virginia. How could you love a man who has done all of these terrible things? In any event, I'm going to continue to read this. The couple remained legally married but became estranged in 2024, living in separate houses. Virginia lived at the ranch in a town called Negerby with her full-time carer, Cheryl, whom she had hired to help after suffering a debilitating back injury. Robert remained at the marital home in Ocean Reef, 30 miles away. So, what I want to say here is that we all know about Cheryl, the 70-year-old woman who was driving the car when the accident happened. However, what we're going to discover as I read the rest of this with you is that nobody was in the house when Virginia unalived herself. Not Cheryl, not her brother. She was alone. Nobody was in the house. Keep that in your keep that in the back of your mind, okay? So everything changed after an incident on January 9 this year when which Virginia and Robert have characterized very differently. They had reunited at a rental house along the Western Australian coast for their daughter Emily's 15th birthday. Over a FaceTime call the next day, Virginia told Sky and Amanda her account of the incident. According to Sky, Robert went into Virginia's room. Here is where we're really, this is something that has never been said before. It's something that occurred to me. I kept quiet about it, but this is how this kind of man looks at somebody like Virginia. So they're estranged. They've gotten together for Amanda's 15th birthday party. And what does Robert do? He went into her room and he asked her for S. But when she said no, he started to call her names and he got aggressive. Now, this is in the article. Sky said Virginia claimed he punched her over and over. So that is the breaking point. Virginia says no to a demand to be used to just to be used and abused. They're not even together anymore. She's not. They're getting a divorce, but he's drinking. He sounds like he's an alcoholic. In addition to not having any brain, he's just like a stupid man, a brute. I'm going to call him a brute. Robert, you're a brute. I really don't care. I know you've been listening because you listened the whole time. And so, in any event, he wants to take advantage of her. She's there to celebrate her daughter's 15th birthday. She says no to this random, hey, I wanna do this to you. She's like, no. And instead of walking away, I mean, he should not even have asked her to do something like this. He beats her up and he becomes not just verbally abusive, but physically abusive. And this is when everything turns. So I'm going to say, Robert, you have unalived your wife, and there's no way around that. I don't really care how your sister-in-law, your brother-in-law are trying to frame this regarding the fact that she unalived herself. At that very moment when this happened, and then you decided to take action against her because she said no to your request for S, you took away her children. So I'm going to continue with this article. But all of you who are listening to me have heard what I said. So Sky said that the incident aggravated existing injuries to her sternum and spine, which she had undergone extensive surgery to treat in 2023. Sky shared a text Virginia sent to her mother on January the 10th. On January the 10th at 5:55 a.m., Virginia sends her mother a DM. Mommy, please call me when you're awake. Rob did it again. I'm in the hospital and I need your voice to calm me down. And then when her mother gets up in the morning, she's saying, trying to call, please call me back. Love you. Can you please? Love you, honey. Love, mom. So apparently the relationship that had been sour between her mother and herself when she was very young, it had been repaired. Virginia repaired her relationship with her mother. Good on her. She's just a wonderful, amazing woman, and she will be forever missed. In the days after the alleged assault, while Virginia was recovering at Royal Perth Hospital, she and Cheryl took photos of her injuries. They appear to show Virginia with a black eye and her face and chest bruised. So that's that photograph that, in fact, actually, that's this photograph. That's this photograph. That's what her loving husband Robert did to her because she would not acquiesce to having us with him. That's what he did. Okay. Oh, I just needed to kind of take a break there because I'm just so heartbroken for her. Both sides reported the incident to the police in Western Australia. An investigator from the Family Violence Investigation Squad in Perth confirmed they had looked into the claims that they had not charged either with a crime. Robert filed a restraining order application against Virginia at the magistrate's court while she was in the hospital. According to his account, he and Virginia had been talking, and the conversation led to an argument, and then she started physically assaulting me with headbutts, punching and spitting. I was trying to protect myself by covering my face, and as soon as I had the chance to flee, I did. That is his statement. Liar. Okay, I'm going to continue. He alleged that she caused herself the injuries and that she was and had been mentally unstable. Okay, he claims, Robert, that Virginia did all that to herself. Okay, let's just keep going. In handwritten notes in the affidavit, he claimed that he was left with scratches and bruising to the head, and that he was fearful. My spouse will once again come assault and harass myself and my kids. He filed for temporary custody of their younger children. Noah, who was months away from turning 18, and Emily, which he was granted. Virginia was prohibited from seeing or contacting them for 6 months, in a decision that came as a shock to her and her family in the United States. During her FaceTime call with Sky, Virginia opened up about her alleged abuse, which she claimed had been taking place for some time. She'd gone through rough patches growing up, and she would always protect me from all that stuff, Sky said. She played that protective role later in life, too, but at this point, it was beyond that. That night at the rental house was the last time Virginia saw her children. Over the next 2 months, she tried to reach out to Emily. She had sent Emily a link to a song they liked, Sky said. She changed the names of the family's shared Netflix and Amazon accounts to Mommy Still Loves You and Mommy Is Here, Sky said, in the hope the children would see the messages. The family said they saw Virginia's cryptic Instagram post on March 30th as a way to reach her children and as a desperate plea for help. The post was met with questions about Virginia's reliability, whether she, as she claimed, had 4 days to live, and whether the crash had even happened. I reviewed the damage to Virginia's car just because I'm an insurance adjuster myself and I was curious. It was very much damaged, Sky said, who traveled to Australia to be with Virginia, concerned about her well being. And in fact, we know that her brother Sky did go to Virginia to do that. And then the article continues, there are a very small number of people that know the overall scope of what happened, Sky said. You have people coming out, including my own dad, saying somebody did this to her. It's insulting to me. So he is now complaining that Sky Roberts, their father, is suspicious of what happened to Virginia. Frankly, I remain suspicious too. In any event, I'm going to continue with the article. I have never seen my sister as physically broken down as she was then, Sky said of the final 3 weeks they spent together. She was really struggling emotionally and physically. She could face a lot of things, but the idea of not seeing her children broke her. Now, I just want to pause here because she was only, even the court hold and preventing her from seeing her children was temporary. It was 6 months. And Virginia, she was a tough girl. She put on that whole front about she was fine, she was fighting for everyone. We never saw her really break down unless she was talking about things that she was remembering and it was causing her some emotional duress. However, 6 months goes by very quickly. And in 6 months, she was going to be able to see them anyway. So the whole thing, I understand that she was missing them, but 6 months would have passed. And during that time, she would have been able to present previous information to the court, such as the fact that he had been arrested for beating her up previous to this. So she would have been able to actually win. Uh, she had ample evidence. She had photographs of herself taken during previous beatings, and one of the kids kind of witnessed stuff going on, and her family could have intervened as well because they had noticed his behavior. So even if had she gone to court, she would have been able to overcome this. So I'm not buying all of this stuff that this pushed her over the edge. I don't know. Something is not smelling right to me here. So apparently, the brothers and the sister-in-law, they want the world to buy into the fact that, well, this did her in. And yeah, I'm sure it had a devastating and emotional uh, effect on her, including the fact that she was beaten up again. Clearly, we saw her in the hospital. However, she would have been able to clear that up. Okay, I'm going to continue with this article. Despite that, Sky said he and Virginia had such a good day. Listen to this. They had such a good day the day before she took her life. We had lunch, and after that, we tried on cowboy hats and went to a thrift store. We were just being silly. She could be very silly. So Even Sky, her brothers, talking about the really great day they had together. I'm sorry, if I'm planning to unalive myself the following day or that night, I'm not going to be joking around with one of my siblings trying on cowboy hats and going shopping. That's really not where my head would be if I was that destroyed emotionally. So this is very contradictory. I'm going to go ahead and say the night they went to bed, everything seemed okay. Sky said the next day he went to check on her. So clearly, he wasn't staying with her in her house. He went to check on her. Hearing the sound of some what he described as meditation music through her bedroom door, he decided to go. Oh, okay. So, correction. He was staying with her at the house, but he went to her room to knock on the door. He heard meditation music through the bedroom door. He decided to give her some space and he left the house. Okay, that's what happened. So her brother Sky was there. He went to check on her. He heard the music through the door. He left the house. He called Cheryl to check to see if she was with her sister. But Cheryl told him that Virginia had told her to take the day off, as it was Anzac Day, a national day of remembrance in Australia. We have always had this interconnected twinsy thing, and I just felt something was wrong, Sky said, sobbing. He said he drove back to the house at around 8 o'clock that evening. So he's woken up in the morning. He doesn't go to her room. He doesn't return until 8 o'clock at night because he has this feeling that something's wrong with the sister, but he's gone the whole day. Okay, I'm just saying. And then he knocked on her door again. So when Virginia did not answer, Sky tried to open it, but he found it locked. He broke the door down and found her unconscious. He attempted resuscitation for 45 minutes. 45 minutes before paramedics arrived and declared her unalive. Her brother did not wish to go into detail on the manner of unaliving. Von Muffling, who was keen to dispel conspiracy theories that there might have been foul play, said she confided in me weeks before that she had planned to do this, very down to the way to the method. Von Muffling counseled her against it and urged the brothers to go and be with her in Perth. She was very clear that the pain was just too deep. She couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't a dramatic conversation, it was very matter of fact. Sky does not know why his sister picked that day, though Amanda believes she felt safe knowing her brother, one of the few men she ever trusted, was there. And that is apparently the conclusion. And then it goes on to add, it was a lot of things, Sky said. It was about to be Noah's 18th birthday. That was very important to her, and she knew she would not be there for her. They were her life, meaning her children. And Virginia left behind a letter for her children in a final entry of her journal entitled To the Kids. Every day that I don't see your face has a little less light, she wrote. It'll be all right. You'll have a rainbow over your head, angels by your side, and God in your heart. The family is making the note public in the hope that her children will see it and know how much she loved them. Virginia's brothers have tried to contact them but have not received a response. Because he remained the next of kin, Virginia's body was released to Robert, who held a small private service for her in Perth. Her family said they were not invited. So, therefore, if you recall from my previous podcast with an update on Virginia and her funeral, she was cremated. That clearly was Robert's decision. Virginia was Catholic. Catholics don't believe in cremation. I'm sorry, they just don't. He had her cremated. I suppose he had her cremated because she had so many injuries to her body. That's my opinion. I'm allowed to have an opinion that perhaps he did not want anyone to perform an autopsy. And by the way, there was no autopsy done. He had her cremated, and the family, her brothers and her sisters, they were not her sister-in-laws. Okay, well, they were not invited to the funeral. In the months since, Amanda and Sky have taken up Virginia's mantle with the charity SOAR, campaigning across the U.S. to help pass legislation to protect the victims of abuse. And, on that note, I'm going to end reading this article. Um, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this update. And Virginia, you're missed by many people. You've changed the lives of many, many women and men as well. Your spirit will always shine bright in the hearts of your other family, those of us for whom you remain a hero. Rest in peace, sweetheart. Love you. Bye.